Oh, but this is exciting. I'm hoping that this is working and on my Instagram feed. I've never done an Insta live before, and I'm messing around with some new software that should make it easy for me to stream off my webcam. So I'm hoping that if you're watching this live or on replay, that it's working. I'm sure I'll look at it back and be like, oh, that looks a bit squiffy, that looks a bit wrong. But anyway, you have to do these things to learn them. So I wanted to just really quickly go over in the top tips that I've done both on Facebook and on Instagram on moving your pelvis backward and forward. So in the Instagram video on the Facebook page, I posted a lot of stuff about doing it in standing, tucking and tilting. Standing is actually quite a difficult place to learn to do it in, because you can be working against tension in the front of the thighs, back of the hamstrings, wherever it might be. So I wanted to give you a couple of other places that you can try it on. So if you have anything like a half roller, like a small rolled up towel, this is a baby yoga bolster, foam roller, those are great places to work on. And you can do it a couple of ways. So I'm just going to pick the half roller because I know that that works quite well for me. But you would lie on your back and then put it underneath your pelvis. And you really want to go right across the join of both bum cheeks. So you're kind of on the base of the sacrum towards the tailbone area. The advantage of this is if you're someone that goes through life like this with the ribs higher than the pelvis, gravity is on your side here for sure. And then if you let the pelvis drop towards you, so I'm trying to fill up all this space between my back and the floor. Well, not fill it up, it's not going to come all the way down. But now as I let this pelvis come backwards, so now I've got pubic bone really to the ceiling and these two front corner bones sliding towards my rib cage, what I have is a lot of weight on the back of my ribs, particularly that area around the bottom of the shoulder blades. So that's the area you try to keep on the floor, and then you play with working the pelvis forward and seeing where forward is for you without the ribs coming off the floor. So it can definitely take some playing with to get this sense of mid-rib stay anchored down, and then the pelvis should move freely. This was not a good day to wear black on black, was it? But it can be quite a lot smaller movement than some people think it is. It's definitely a movement that I think if you're very mobile, you can overdo it from other places in your back. The version that most kind of made sense to me as somebody that does live in a very flexible body was to have the feet up on the wall, like this position, and then keep them there and see if I could move the pelvis backward and forward, because the ability to push with your feet and use a lot of leg is taken away from you. And then if you really want to advance it, you can dangle the heels down, place your hands on the front of the thighs, and you're bracing the hands and legs against each other, and then let the pelvis move backward and forward, which will be really all about the interaction of the front of your body, the back of your body. I like to work the rolling back on an exhale, the rolling forward on an inhale. So they're great ones to do if you have a lot of low back issues, if you're trying to fan them out. And then you can play with it in seated, because seated often does really teach you where you're cheating this whole thing from. So if I'm watching somebody and I see a lot of this range of motion and back up, I know they're trying to compress from the top of the shoulders. They're really trying to force the ribs to do a lot of the pushing back and forward. And sometimes there's barely any movement from the pelvis, or it's not coming in till much later, that they can almost get into that shape, but they're still on the same spot on their pelvis that they were when they were sitting upright. So it can be a tricky one to do. But again, I quite like to put the upper back against something. It's probably not that helpful to show you this way. But if I put, again, that kind of mid-back, bra strap region, maybe heart rate monitor region against the wall or a chair, and then move the pelvis backward and forward, it gives me some feedback as to whether I'm trying to push from my rib cage. So it would be kind of this area, the top 1/3 of your back, that you would want to get some connection to the wall and then play with what is it like to only move your pelvis and not your rib cage. So that those would be really helpful for tip one. And then tip two today was about getting the side muscles of your body to really work and playing with sliding your bum sideways one way, the other way, using the wall. The other way that you can definitely access a similar range of motion or help that range if it's stuck is to have the feet level and let one knee start to bend, and only one knee. So on the bent knee side, can you see, if I put my hands here, how this side of the pelvis has dropped right down and this side has come up? And then you let that knee straighten, you send the other one forward. So as you play with it from one side to the other is often when you can feel the side that's a little bit sticky, because you can kind of feel how instead of the pelvis dropping, what it does is it pushes out to the side. So it becomes more this motion, which is what we were showing in tip two. But in this particular scenario, that would be a compensatory movement for a side that was tighter, where you really couldn't get this lengthening to drop the hip down. So I would definitely play with that. I would also maybe monitor the front of the pelvis and just see when you're bending a knee and dropping the pelvis, are you doing that by creating a twist to drop it? And then start to play with what would it take to bend a knee but keep these two bones level relative to each other. I love all these moves. They're just great ways to explore your own compensations for what's not working the way that it could be working. And there's many reasons why, we could do a whole 5 tips on your feet and relate that back to here. But for this series, we're just staying around your core. So don't forget to comment. Let me know what you found. Let me know if there's anything that you are struggling with. And I'll look forward to seeing you again later on this week.